Right. So we need to have a conversation. And by conversation, I mean I need to get this shit off my chest because it's kind of getting ridiculous now. Alright, so anyone who knows me, who's been watching some of my book videos and stuff, may know that I am not a fan of the Twilight series whatsoever. I cannot stand the Twilight series, and there are a lot of reasons for that. One of the main reasons is that it is based on an abusive relationship. Completely and utterly an abusive relationship. Now, I've tried to be patient, and, you know, when it first came out, I read most of the first book, and I couldn't finish it. Now, for me, that is something strange. I have read a lot of books, and a lot of them I haven't liked, but I've still had to finish them. I just feel like I had to have that completion. Twilight has been the only book I've ever been able to put down without finishing and never pick up again, because I was disgusted. Like, there are a lot of things wrong with that series. But then there was 50 Shades, and like, oh, I'm worked up at the moment, so there's going to be lots of toing and froing here. But now we have 50 Shades of Grey. Now, Twilight is based off an abusive relationship. 50 Shades of Grey is fanfiction of Twilight, which is also based off an abusive relationship. But not only that, they had to drag BDSM into it, and I have a huge problem with that. But I sort of waited, because I was hoping the hype would die down, but it hasn't, and now we're having a movie come out the day before Valentine's Day. Because, what else says I love you, better than an abusive BDSM relationship? Like, oh, okay. So, this has been really pissing me off, and I've been very vocal about my hatred of both Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey. I've been vocal about how 50 Shades of Grey is not an accurate depiction of any sort of BDSM except incorrect BDSM. It's harmful, and it's all sorts of horrible. And before anyone goes, oh, what do you really know about BDSM? I actually practice BDSM. I've been in I've been in part of my local kink scene for 6 years now. I've been to kinky nightclubs, I've been to private play parties, I've been to swinger parties, I've been in BDSM relationships with both males and females. I've been dominant, I've been submissive, I've been monogamous, I've been polyamorous. So when I say 50 Shades of Grey is not an accurate depiction of BDSM, I mean 50 Shades of Grey is not an accurate depiction of BDSM. It is horrible on so many levels, and there's no shortage of information on the internet about the right way to practice BDSM, the right way to be kinky and, do experimental things and stuff. But there's also no shortage of information about BDSM in relation to 50 Shades of Grey and how wrong it is, and, the fact that it is based off an abusive relationship. But what's really starting to really get on my nerves is the amount of horrible fiction that has come out. It's sort of, some of it has been written after 50 Shades of Grey and released and self-published and stuff like that. Some of it has just been brought to light. Now, when you're looking at erotic fiction and romance and stuff like that, there are a lot of things you got to take with a grain of salt. I read a lot of erotica. Well, not a lot of erotica, but I read erotica, I read romance, I read paranormal romance, I read a whole bunch of stuff. I used to read a lot of the Mills and Boon stuff, and I mean, that stuff it's all, I mean, I know it's not an accurate depiction of romance or anything like that. Like, it's, listen, you gotta take it with a grain of salt. But when you look at something like 50 Shades and the fiction that's coming after it, it's at a point where you sit there and you wonder, like, what is wrong with you people? Like, how is this something enjoyable to read? Like, I mean, I read to get away from the shitty things that I have to deal with in my life, disability, all that sort of, disability, unemployment, politics, terrorism, stuff. Just really shitty stuff. So, it doesn't make sense to me that people will sit down and read a book that focuses on an abusive relationship. I mean, how is that enjoyable? I don't understand, but I found one today, and I was going through the Goodreads list of giveaway books, and I'm not going to name and shame the book or the author, because this is not the only book of its nature. But this book starts off with a girl who goes out, has a few drinks, and is kidnapped by a group of men, taken to a basement, and then is saved by one of the guys because all of this group of men is going to beat her and rape her and use her as they see fit. So this guy turns around and says, "You know what? I really like this one. I'm going to make her my personal slave. I'm going to save her from all these other guys and the treatment that we've probably done to countless other women." And it's sort of marketed as a romance where, she willingly becomes his slave, and, apparently there's a lot of, group sex scenes and stuff, and it even has a warning that the consent is dubious. Why are people writing this, and more importantly, why are people reading it? Why are people still sitting there going, "Oh, well, this is fine," but then I'm looking at it, and I'm just seeing horrible things mentioned in this book. So I started looking at the reviews, curious. This book in particular has thousands of reviews. Thousands of people have read this book, and most of them have given it a 3 to 5 star rating, and are going on about how it's dark erotica at its best. I'm sorry, but reading about someone who's kidnapped and raped and beaten and, is being held against her will and forced into being a slave and stuff, that is not a good book. That is not a good anything. That is horrible. That these things are illegal. They are damaging. These things have ruined people's lives. And everyone's going on and calling it dark erotica and saying it's fantastic, it's twisted, it's sick, but it's awesome. No! This is where things like 50 Shades and stuff, this is why people get so pissed off at things like this, because, if someone came to you and said that this had happened to them, you'd get pissed off. Most people would get pissed off. You would get pissed off, and you would get angry, and you would just be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that's happened to you. I'm so sorry. We need to go tell the police. We need to go make sure you're okay medically and physically. We need to, get you some mental help so that you don't have any PTSD or anything like that." But we can write about it and read it in a book and not think this is wrong. It's kind of beyond me, and this is where I'm putting my foot down now, because, I mean, I can't support anyone who reads this shit. Straight up. This is wrong. And, the thing is, it's not the only book of its type. I'm having a look at, the similar books and stuff, and there are hundreds of them now that are about women being kidnapped and gang raped and stuff like that. And then, we have our master who comes in and saves them by taking them for themselves. That's not saving them. That's going from one shitty situation to another shitty situation, and it shouldn't be fucking done. Straight up. And it's not BDSM. This is not, ooh, it's so kinky. No, it's fucking abusive. It's illegal. It's rape. It's kidnapping. What is wrong with people? I don't get it. I can't. I really just can't get over this. This is going to piss me off for days. And, I honestly can't believe this is a thing. That people honestly write about rape and kidnap and try to market it as an erotica romance sort of thing. Like, I mean, okay, fiction you've got to sort of take with a grain of salt a lot of the time. You know, you're never gonna pick up a book that is perfect. Um, and even in non-romance, non-erotica stuff, there are things that are gonna happen that you kind of sit back and go, oh, I don't know if I like that. You know, and you do take it with a grain of salt, but this is completely different. This is a book that is centered on kidnapping and gang rape and non-consensual sex. Like, this is ridiculous. And this is, I mean, this is a thing that's always sort of been around. And it was sort of pushed back. And, like, there wasn't nearly as much of it as there is now. I mean, you had the really dubious sort of romance stuff. You had some things like Lolita that kind of really, well, not kind of, that did really push the boundaries of what was okay to write about. But now we have rape fiction. Like, the fuck? This is getting ridiculous. And I can't honestly condone it. Like, I there's a lot of things that I won't condone, you know, and this is one of the big ones. Like, this is, why would you even want to write that kind of stuff? I mean, I'm not even, like, I'm not even going to go into how triggering this sort of stuff would be for someone who's experienced something similar, you know, and then there's the fact that, you know, the rape culture that we have in this society, you know, and this is what we're reading, and people are, you know, there's comments on some of these books that are about being kidnapped and gang raped and stuff, like, oh, if I had to be gang raped and kidnapped and stuff, I would want this person to do it because, oh my god, they're so dreamy. No! It's just like when I hear people say, oh, I totally want an Edward of myself. Really? You want someone that breaks into your room, stands over you, and watches you sleep? That's a stalker. That's illegal. That is creepy as hell. And I'm telling you now, as someone who has experienced being stalked, it is not fun. It fills you with fear every single moment of your life. You're not even safe in your own home because they find out where you live and they sit in your backyard and they watch you through your windows. They steal your mail, they follow you to work, they follow your housemates around. Like, it's not the type of thing you want. It is not a relationship. It's stalking, it's abuse, it's freaking horrible. And I mean, I don't know anyone who wouldn't try to fight back in that sort of situation too. Like, you know, and then from what I was getting from a lot of these reviews of these books about these female characters that are being kidnapped and raped is they sort of cling on to these people who save them, like, you know, and then it becomes like a romance where they start to enjoy it and stuff. And I mean, I know Stockholm Syndrome is a thing, but it just, I can't even articulate a lot of my thoughts right now because I'm so pissed off that this is a thing. I mean, I know you have the whole thing of, you know, you get to choose what books you pick up to read and stuff, but why is this even a thing? Why are people writing this and why are people agreeing to read it? I can't. I honestly can't. You know, and again, as someone who's experienced some of this shit, you know, I was in an abusive relationship. I left him and he stalked me for 3 years. Like, you know, I'm still afraid to leave the house on my own. I still worry that every time I go anywhere, I'm gonna run into the guy. You know, like, and like, then there's like people sitting there just casually writing about being kidnapped and raped by a bunch of people, and, you know, BDSM where it's non-consensual, and, you know, oh, I seriously, I mean, I didn't have much respect left for most of humankind, and this is just making it so much worse. Like, how do you even just, like, just gonna look up this 50 words. There is a campaign, and I'm just trying to find the name of it. I liked it the other day, so it should be on here somewhere. But there is a campaign at the moment, and it's the whole point of it is to bring awareness about how damaging something like 50 Shades of Grey is, not just to BDSM, but just in terms of relationships and healthy relationships. I just gotta scroll through all the crap to try and find it again. Okay, where's the damn page? I know I liked the page, I know I shared everything. Yeah, I mean, like, they've got quotes and stuff. And there we go. Okay, so it's called $50 Not 50 Shades. And essentially the point is that it's encouraging people to go and spend, to donate $50 to organizations that help with domestic violence, disputes, and, you know, women's shelters and stuff like that, instead of going to see 50 Shades of Grey. It's you know, like, because it's horrible. Like, the entire thing is just terrible. And I've only read, like, a couple of chapters of it, and I put it down because I was disgusted. Like, I never thought I would ever find anything worse than Twilight, and then 50 Shades happened. You know, like, and, like, it's got quotes from the movie and stuff. And it's just like, one of the quotes from the girl is, "No, please, I can't do this, not now, I need some time, please." Which is essentially removing the like, even if consent was there in the first place, this is removing that. That is saying, no, this is not going right, I'm not comfortable with this needs to stop. And it's, oh, Anna, don't overthink this. Like, that is ignoring the removal of consent. That is rape. Yeah, and it's just, I look at some of these quotes and, like, I didn't even get to these parts of the book. You know, and, like, at one point, she says no, tries to kick him off, and he's just like, "If you keep struggling, I'll tie your feet down too." That is not consent, that is not BDSM, that is abuse. Straight up. And, you know, and, like, he goes on that, you know, he tries to restrict who she can talk to and who she can see, and, you know, threatens to find her if she ever tries to get away. This is not a healthy relationship. This is straight up abuse. Like, I mean, in BDSM, if you are a submissive and you're dominant, like, and you have a dominant, sometimes you can do, I don't even know what to really call it. Alright, so in BDSM, you can sometimes make your submissive not be able to talk to people, but it's consensual. Because, I mean, everything in BDSM is consensual. The byline of BDSM, of kink, is safe, sane, and consensual. So it's about knowing what you're doing and knowing how to do it properly to not hurt someone. Not something that's stupid and crazy, and everybody involved agrees to all terms. And one of the first things you learn when you come into BDSM properly is that scenes, play, whatever you want to call it, is negotiated. You sit down or you stand together and you have a conversation like, "Alright, I'm thinking we do this. How's that? Yeah, okay, I like this, this, and this, but this is a hard limit, so we will not be doing anything like that." You know, you set up a safe word or like a signal or something so that if something goes wrong and you need a break or you need to stop, it stops. Like, it's none of this fucking, if you struggle, I'll just tie you down more. No! Oh my god, no! I can't. You know, but you can have this whole thing where, you know, a submissive cannot speak to someone, directly, and usually you can tell, like, you go to a play party and you'll see a submissive person and they'll sort of follow the dominant around. And they'll usually kind of keep their head down and they won't really make eye contact with anyone. And usually they'll stay close to the dominant because the dominant has to give permission for them to speak to that person. But it's consensual. And this is something that they would have discussed before they arrive at the party, or maybe they're only going to do it for half the party, maybe they decide to give it a go for a little while, but it's all consensual, it's all planned out, it's all, or we're going to do this, and we're not going to do this, and these are the terms, this is how we stop this and stuff. And it's not no, you can't talk to that person because I don't like them. It doesn't even come into that. It's really hard to explain. Again, it's hard to articulate just how it works. But it's not a case of, no, I don't want you talking to that person because they might convince you to leave me or anything like that. It's not that kind of thing at all. And I mean, this is stuff that all could be avoided if people just went and read a few books. There are books on BDSM that, go over the basics and stuff. They go over how to be a dominant, how to be a submissive, different types of play, Well, if you want to tie someone up with rope, you don't just start tying, you've got to look at it properly. You've got to make sure you've got enough space in between the skin and the rope to not cut off circulation. You've got to have your knots in a certain way so that if you need to get out quickly, or get the person out quickly, you can untie really quick, or you have to make sure you have strong scissors by. But I mean, this is all stuff that you learn. You can't just tie someone up with rope and it's all fine. And it just, I'm really hoping nobody gets hurt because of this freaking movie, where they, see something, oh, that's kinky, let's try that tonight, and then do it wrong and hurt themselves, because this is all stuff that could be avoided. Like, if shit like this wasn't put into the mainstream, if shit like this wasn't written in the first place, if people could look at it and go, no, this is wrong, this is abusive, this is not right, it's just, oh. I really can't. Needless to say, I am not going to see that freaking movie, and I'm pretty sure I'm just going to stop talking to anyone who does go to see it, because I can't honestly support anyone who condones abuse and stuff. And I mean, not only that, but I know that, I think from the second book onwards, the chick, Anastasia, her whole thing is, oh, well, maybe I can fix him. Maybe I can get him away from the BDSM. And, there's... So even though it is an abusive relationship and it's got this really unhealthy BDSM aspect to it, there's still playing on the cliched, stereotypical, oh, he must be into BDSM because he was abused when he was a child, and there must be something wrong with him because he's into all these really weird things and he likes to cause pain. There is nothing wrong with it. I mean, again, if you're doing it safe, sane, and consensual, it's not a problem. It's not something that's reserved to people who have been abused and people who are sick. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And the only thing wrong with BDSM is 50 Shades of Grey and all the fiction like it, because this is getting fucking ridiculous. I still can't. There is rape fiction. Like, straight up group rape, kidnapping fiction. People have written this on purpose and published it, and people are reading it and enjoying it, and this is so wrong. Like, I've been sitting here for almost half a freaking hour because I can't get over how freaking wrong this shit is. Just, no. 0 out of 10, do not want any aspect of this shit. I can't honestly believe that this is a thing. And now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, if there's kidnap and rape fiction, what the hell else is out there that people are freaking writing? Like, I know that there was a book a few months ago that was like centered around incest. That there were a lot of people that, you know, that got up in arms about that. In fact, I actually had someone who follows me on YouTube message me and ask me if I'd heard about the book and what I thought about the whole incest side of it, because she was um, ending her subscription and not following, defriending, and stuff anyone who thought the book might be interesting. Like, that was how strongly against incest she was. And I hadn't actually heard of the book. I know I mean, I'd heard the book once I had a look at it, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking, what the hell is this book? I haven't heard of it. Had a look on Goodreads, and yeah, it's like an incest relationship, but it's not my sort of thing. I know, straight up, it's not my sort of thing. I don't condone it at all. Um, but I didn't read it. I wasn't going to read it. And I just, like, there were a lot of people that were kind of pissed about that book. And I mean, it kind of stumps me that if people are pissed off about something that's exploring incest, which, I mean, incest is not a good thing. It's pretty messed up in a lot of different ways. Like, I mean, thinking, genetically and stuff like that, it can cause a lot of big problems. But at the same time, I mean, it does sort of come down to the heart wants what the heart wants. But it is one of those things where there's no way to really, like, I'm not defending it at all, because I don't agree with incest. I don't think it should be a thing. I think that if you're resorting to hooking up and loving someone who's in your own family with the same genetics, then there is a big problem. Especially if you act on it, and that's the other big thing. But yeah, like, it's one of those tricky ones. Yeah, but it's not a book that I'm gonna read. It's not a book that I'll ever read. Yeah, but there were people up in arms and pissed off about that. But we've got rape fiction, and no one's, like, everyone's going against 50 Shades, yes. Because 50 Shades is sort of what's started this particular phenomenon. But no one's up in arms about these other ones, which are worse than 50 Shades. Like, this is talking about kidnapping and gang rape and, dubious consent. Like, how are people not freaking going arms up for this, man? I wonder if Tumblr knows about this. If Tumblr knew, then it'd probably be different, but yeah, I'm gonna outright say it. I have no respect for anyone that enjoys the 50 Shades of Grey series, because it's horrible, it really is. And that's probably where I'm gonna leave this, because I'm just about at the 30-minute mark now. But, I can't stand people sometimes. People just... You kind of look at them and you think, how? Why? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I kind of don't want to understand how people can enjoy that sort of thing, because there's got to be something going on in your head if that's what you find enjoyable to read. Like, I mean, I've read some romance and erotica and stuff. That's even left me sitting there going, nah, 1,000 times no. In fact, there was one, I think, last month that I read, and I can't remember it now because I've ended up deleting the whole series off my e-reader. I mean, it was pretty poorly written, but there's just the fact that the two main characters who fall in love, they don't even talk before they start bonking. Like, I found that a bit ridiculous, but then he decides, because he's a werewolf, he decides to mate her without even asking her, and I'm just like, that's non-consensual, that's not right. I'm not continuing with the series. I'm done. I'm out. No. Consent is important in everything. Even in fiction, consent is important. And anything that sort of supports the idea that consent is not important is dangerous, because that's like the next generation, the current generation, they're going to grow up thinking that it's okay for people to not consent, that it's okay if a guy wants you so bad he won't ask for it, he'll just take it. No. Jesus Christ, like, think about how damaging it is. Like, when you pick up a book and it's got something, non-consensual, rape, abusive, dangerous BDSM practices, like, stop and think about what you're actually reading and what you're supporting, too. The more that we buy these books, the more that we read them, the more we review them, the more that are going to be written like it. And this needs to stop. Like, straight up, this should not be a thing. Anyway, I'm going to go. It's like 5 a.m. This is my 5 a.m. rant, because this shit needs to stop.